I'm an addict called Cheryl. And I'm from Warsaw, Indiana. And we have a small group down there called NA. Looks like you guys got a big group up here. So I'm here to introduce my good friend that I met from an online meeting, This fellow was putting on this history jam, and he had speakers that were like 40 and 50 years of clean time, and I was just like, wow, I got to get into that. And if you didn't get in, they had 1,000 seats, and if you didn't get in early, you didn't get a seat. So I got in early, and I got to hear some of the most famous, not famous, but fabulous people that you could imagine. And afterwards, this guy says, because I started asking, how can I get this? How can I do that? Because I'm hungry for recovery, right? And he says, oh, yeah, just come to our meeting. Yeah, I'll give you our meeting code and you can come to our meeting. It's like, where's your meeting at? He says, California. It's like, oh, I'm in Indiana, And anyway, I've formed a wonderful bond and relationship with this man, and he's taught me a lot about how to accept people where they're at. And I hope you get as much as I do from everything this guy has to share with us. I give you Jason G.
I'm short. Okay, I'm an addict named Jason. And I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to be clean today. And I want to thank the committee for asking me to share in spite of hearing what I had to say last time. Certainly appreciate that. I'm grateful to be here, and I really, really, really appreciate all the love that I received from you guys out there. When I first got here, you know what they told me? I went to give them a handshake, and they pushed my hand aside, and they said, this is the love fellowship. And gave me a hug. Them uncomfortable newcomer hugs. Like, I love those hugs. If you're new, welcome. I hope that you hear something, feel something, see something, smell something. I don't care whatever, but just keep coming back. If you get loaded, come back anyway. That's what addicts do. Addicts get loaded. None of us came in here because we're the best singer in the church choir. I can tell you that. I want to share a couple of things with you. But first, let me say this. I may say some things here that some of y'all might not agree with. Well, that's okay. We're human beings. You don't have to. But I'm just going to say the way that I see it and the way that it's been shared to me. So I want to share some things to you people that are new. Alcohol is a drug. Marijuana is a drug. A card is an excuse to use. The dope that the doctor gives me to get off dope is dope. We used to call that shit methadone back in the day. Yeah. Look, it's real simple. I can't afford to cop a buzz no more. You guys know what it means to cop a buzz. And that whole drug of choice thing, that's kind of a cop out too. I had a sponsor once. He said he had a year clean and he drank. He said, Jason, I drank a beer, but it's okay, because that's not really my drug of choice. Well, it sure the fuck was, because that's the drug you chose. You know what I'm saying? Drug of choice is whatever dope we choose that day. Period. You know what my favorite is? Yours. Right? The Circle. You guys know the Circle. First time I went to the Circle, I saw the Circle. I walked up to that circle, was the first time I asked, what's this? From then, I knew what the circle was, and I didn't have to ask what it was. And sometimes I was surprised when I ended up in those circles. And sometimes when I listen to some people share and they talk about what kind of drugs they used, you know what? I find out what time they got clean because things were popular at certain times. You know what I mean? What I was told in Narcotics Anonymous, it doesn't matter what we used or who our connections were. Any of that stuff matters. Matter of fact, none of that bullshit matters. Look, I love it what it says in when we wrote the basic text, they went from city to city to city. It was an open participatory process where anybody that wanted to show up could show up. A person with like 90 days clean could come and show up. I mean, I've talked to a lot of these guys who were there writing the book. I've done a lot of history stuff, man. You know that part in the book where it talks about the girl selling herself for drugs on the street or the little lady selling scripts. They argued for 90 minutes over that thing before they put it in the book. The one where it says you can't save your ass and your face at the same time. A newcomer said that. We never know who God's going to use to carry the message. Well, when they sent that book out, they sent that book all over the world. Oh, I got to tell you this story because I love this story. And by the way, I'm not going to be structured. I don't know what I'm going to say. It's just going to come out the way it's supposed to come out. So, and they're going to have to tell me when to shut up too, because we went to this one meeting and it was in Fresno. This meeting started at 6:30 on a Sunday night. We took a group conscience and we said we're going to end this meeting after everybody shares, because when we were getting loaded, we didn't think, well, it's an hour and a half, time to go home to the wife and kids, So we decided we're not going to do that with the meeting. Listen. Every long-winded motherfucker in town showed up at that meeting. They went to like 11 o'clock at night sometimes. My brother used to show up there because he needed a ride back to his house when he was getting loaded for the weekend. He went there for a year loaded. And you know what? He ended up getting clean, man. Nice. Now he's got like 25 years or something like that. Miracles happen. Dude, if you don't believe miracles happen, look around. Anyway, so I want to get back to what I was talking about. So when they finished that book, before I get back, when they finished that book, they all wanted to send this book to every meeting in the whole world, right? And it cost $12 for a roll of stamps back in those days. But they didn't have much money either. But what they did was they loaded into the cars, the vans, and they went to the blood bank, because if they gave a pint of blood, they could get $12 for a pint of blood. So literally, our predecessors gave their blood so we could have that basic text. That's what I'm talking about. So that original one, before they even sent out the first edition, and the third edition, what it said was, it says, we do not discriminate against age, race, religion, sexual preference, and this is my favorite part, or any of the lines that people use to separate one another. That's real. That's Narcotics Anonymous. So, you know what? If you're new, welcome. We love you. If you come into the meeting and you keep relapsing over and over and over again, welcome home. We love you. If you're in here and you say you got clean time, but you used that one time, welcome. We love you. I can share with you, though, honest clean time's the real deal. You know what I mean? If you're going to come in here and you're going to preach, welcome. We love you. When I was in early recovery, I used to be a dick. I was a dick when I got loaded. When I got clean, I became a clean dick. Someone would share. And they'd cuss in the meeting because they'd say they were clean and sober. I'd say, drop $2 in the basket then, motherfucker. Later, I had to read the traditions. Later, I had to look at the steps. Later, I realized Where the fuck is the love in that? Where is that in the basic text? You know what? We're supposed to love everybody up in here. When I first got here, they told me this is the love fellowship. After the meeting, they said, we're going to go to coffee. You want to come to coffee? I said, I don't got no money. We said, we didn't ask you if you had no money. We said, you want to go to coffee. I know people that when we were going to conventions, they take the van, they pick everybody up. They said, we're going to a convention. I said, man, what's a convention? They said, get in the van. Right? I've seen people detox on people's couches. I was at the men's retreat last week up in Fresno. We had a guy detoxing in the men's retreat. We picked him up and brought him there, man. I just talked to him before the meeting. He's got 7 days clean now. That was a week ago. That's what I'm talking about. We recover up in here. We clean up, man. We look nice in here. But we need to love everybody. Get this. Sometimes we forget. We're stupid. We separate one from another based off of opinions. Go to a business meeting and someone disagrees with him and you got these people separate. That's bullshit. I don't care what edition of the basic text you're reading. We love each other. Get this. I don't care who you voted for president. You're my friend and I love you. Like I really cared about that shit when I was locked up in the bathroom for 5 hours. You know what I mean? All of a sudden we get clean and we're going to be all, dude, you can't be like that. What the fuck? Some of the people that came in here that bugged the shit out of me have saved my life and saved my ass. So we need to love everybody. So it's real easy to come in here and love, the guy who's fresh out of the clean treatment center that's all clean and smelling nice and everything like that. That's good. Hug him and welcome him. But we also need to love Stinky. We need to hug Stinky, with the big old sweatpants under the arms and the sweat hasn't showered in a fucking week, because that's me. That's you. That's us. We're all the same in here. There's no big eyes of little U's in Narcotics Anonymous. Nobody's any more special than anybody, and that includes clean time. I'll tell you a story. So, I've been around for I got some good stories, man. I'm married. I'll tell you about my wife a little bit later. That's another story. But me and my wife went to Cambria. I don't know if you guys know where Cambria is. It's a beautiful little town, small town on the beach over on the Pacific Ocean. It's nice, it's rocky, it's cliffy. And we do what addicts do. We went to a meeting. I had about 7 years clean. There's probably about 12 people at the meeting. We went around the room at the beginning of the meeting, and everybody said who they were. This is their format. They said who they were, and they said how much clean time they had. Well, they went around the room and they shared in the same order that everybody introduced themselves. Well, it was getting towards the end of the meeting. I looked at my watch and I told my wife, I said, listen, Tricia, I said, everybody's already shared except for that newcomer. And I don't need to hear that newcomer share because I know how to fucking use. And the pool's going to close at the hotel pretty soon. So maybe we just ought to take off from this meeting and go to the pool. Now my wife says, no, Jason, we're going to stay till the end of the meeting and we're even going to do the prayer afterwards. Now, I don't know if any of y'all are married, but if you're on vacation and you're married and your wife says shit like this and she's got that serious tone in her, it's probably a good idea to fucking listen for a minute. You know what I mean? So I stayed. And this newcomer shared he just got back from a 3-year run because he had 7 years clean. He was getting complacent in his recovery and taking his recovery for granted. Not being serious about his recovery. Now, you can be too serious, too. That's another thing, but we won't go there. But that was the message. So I never know who's going to carry the message. And when I was talking about welcoming people, and I said we want to welcome Stinky, that also means the guy that's got 40 years clean and has a colostomy bag or whatever that shit is. Because sometimes the suffering addict isn't the newcomer. Sometimes the suffering addict's the guy who just got his leg chopped off because of diabetes and needs rides to meetings. We need to love everybody in here, regardless of. And everybody. And I'm stupid. I forget things like this. They do things at the area service meeting, and they say, "Oh, we don't, this is not, and it's like, fuck, man, love them. That's my job." Matter of fact, it says we need to practice these principles in all of our affairs, right? It says principles, right? So I got to practice the principles, and I believe that love is the embodiment of all the principles put together. Period. Love. If I work by that, look, in the very, very beginning of our book, it's got the symbol, and it says that the base of the symbol, the very base of our pyramid, right, is forgot the word. It doesn't matter. Goodwill, and goodwill is best exemplified in proper service, which is helping others. But that's doing the right thing for the right reasons. Now, I'm going to go into this. Now, this might piss some of you off. If it is, then fucking deal with it. So. Doing the right thing is always better than doing the wrong thing, right? But doing the right thing for the wrong reasons is better than doing the wrong thing, but it's not as good as doing the right thing for the right reasons. So, I'm an addict. So what I do by nature is I take something outside of me to fix what's going on inside of me. We're sensitive. Matter of fact, I think addicts are the most sensitive people in the world. I really do. We're the most kind, loving. I think that's why we use in the first place, because we wanted to fit into the crowd. We're some of the most sensitive people in the world. And so we're sensitive. So I take something outside of me to fix what's going on inside of me, because I got all these sensitive feelings and everything like that. And so I get clean, and sometimes I still take something outside of me to fix what's going on inside of me. So if you're doing service work, man, that is the right thing to do. But if you're doing service work because it keeps you clean, that's the wrong thing, man. That's the wrong motive. If I do H&I because it don't get me high, that's not the reason I do H&I. I do H&I because I love Narcotics Anonymous. If I'm feeling bad and I'm going to do a writing assignment because they do a writing assignment, that's a fucking Band-Aid. Because it's only through understanding and application that it works. But once we know these spiritual principles, then we got to live them. Because you know what? I may be the only basic text that somebody sees. Like it says in the 12th step. It says in the 12th step of our basic text. It says, our words and our literature are meaningless. You know what it says that? It says our words and our literature are meaningless. It says our lives and our actions give it way more meaning than our words and our literature ever could. Yeah? So if I'm in here acting like a clean dick, you follow me? I might as well just do that in church. I didn't mean to offend anybody, but you know what I'm saying? We got to change the way we live. This is a recycling program, and it's an inside-out job. We'll go. I'll go into the steps a little bit here, but it's all about, man, how am I living? Am I loving the other person? I ask myself sometimes, where is the love in that? That guy who's going through all that pain. Look, I remember early recovery. There was this one dude, and man, he went through this anger issue that was really bad. He was angry all the time. And then he went through some other things, and then right before he died, he went into acceptance. We found out that he had AIDS, and he was going through a process of grief. You know what? I learned a lot, because what I learned is that, you know what? We don't know what that other person's going through. I think I might know what that other person's going through, but whenever I judge another person, I had a sponsor tell me, he goes, take inventories, Jason. He goes, why don't you go into the rooms and take inventories all the time, because one of these days you're going to find out whose inventory you're really taking. How am I going to judge your insides? I'm not in you. All I do is see your outsides, and I say, well, this is what would be going on in me if I was acting that way. Sometimes we're in pain up in here, and people don't even notice it. I'm guilty. We're all guilty. We had this meeting in Madera, California that we went to. It was under the water tower. Great meeting. They meet every night of the week. It's right by the bridge where we get homeless and everything. There was this one kid who used to come to the meeting all the time. He used to be the one who was always bumming cigarettes and looking for attention and asking for empty cans and stuff like that. One day the fellowship got ripped off. The windows were broken in the fellowship. We called the police. We came over. You know what was missing? There was some toilet paper missing and a couple of key tags. The cops came over, and the cops went to the neighbor, and they said, "Oh yeah, the kid knocked on our door and asked us if he could borrow a crowbar." He didn't want to rip off the fellowship. That was a cry for help. That's what that was. That was a cry for help. We should have paid attention to him earlier. By the way, he ended up getting clean. So I think when we need to listen, sometimes we need to listen to it with our eyes and our hearts. I had a sponsor. He's gone now. His name was John. He went to a meeting in Mexico once. It was at a convention. And he was with this other guy, this other friend of mine, and he started crying. And my friend he goes, "Well, what the fuck are you crying about? You don't even understand Spanish." And he looked over to my partner and he goes, "That shows what you know about recovery, because this isn't a disease of language. This is a disease of feelings. And can't you feel that guy's pain?" You ever go to a meeting and somebody will be talking all kinds of good recovery shit, then after the meeting you give the person a hug and they just break down and start crying? We don't know what's going on unless you share it. By the way, that whole thing that says take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth, bullshit. It's not in the basic text. If you're feeling pain, I want to hear it. If you're new and you're hurting, please share it with us. Please grab someone aside. Get open and share it with us and be honest about it, because I'm telling you what, we can't help if we don't know what's going on. But together we can stay clean. Together we can find a new life. Together we live, and together there's hope, and together there's freedom. So share that stuff. You know, I used to be one of those guys who say, "Work the steps or die, motherfucker." That ain't in the basic text. It's not in the basic text. They said it. You know what happens? And this is my opinion again, but sometimes shit from treatment centers bubbles on over into Narcotics Anonymous. Back in the old days, there was a thing called attack therapy treatment. You know, where you jump down the motherfucker's throat. You know what they told me? This is the love fellowship. Look, you guys can tell me all day long what's wrong, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm doing wrong, but guess what? I already fucking know, and I'm beating myself up in the mirror every fucking day about it. It just makes it worse when someone's ripping into me and telling me stuff I already fucking know. I got a self-centered disease, man, and it tears me apart. There's nobody in this room that can tear me apart like I can tear me apart. I'll tell you a story here, another story. So, me and my wife, we had the 2 kids. We were driving, my kid and my nephew. We were driving down to Disneyland. Now, I do it like an addict. I had the day off, so I got up super early in the morning, like 5 in the morning, to go to Disneyland. You guys know how it is. It's a 3.5, 4-hour drive. So I'm going to drive down in the morning, spend all day in Disneyland, and then come back late at night, right? So that's what I'm doing. Great time. We're at Disneyland. We're all having a fun time. Everything's great. Everything's like that. On our way back, we're driving up over the Grapevine. Now, the Grapevine is this big, steep hill where you get from L.A. into Bakersfield. It's steep. And we didn't have satellite radio back then, so you had radio stations, right? So as we're going up the Grapevine, the kids are sleeping in the back. My wife's kind of nodding out in the passenger seat. And the radio starts to, you know, where it's got all that crackling sound and you can't hear shit. So, I'm, you know, an addict alone's in bad company, man. I look over to my wife and I say, "Baby, I love you." Now, she's half asleep and she doesn't say anything to me. Now, I like to think it was probably like about a half an hour, but it was probably more like 5 minutes. But these tapes, I had about 10 years clean. These tapes started playing in my head. God, you're a sick motherfucker. You know what you've done in the past. Nobody loves you. What's wrong with you? Do I have to tell you guys these tapes, or you know these tapes? You know these tapes, right? I'm running these tapes. And then all of a sudden it's like, fuck! And I take the fist in my windshield, and bam, I hit my fist against the windshield and crack the fucking windshield in the car. Now my wife is awake. I'm sorry, baby. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a piece of shit. I should have more clean time than this. Why am I doing stuff like this? I always do stupid shit. Why am I doing stuff like this? And I'm beating myself up over it again, and I'm staring out the window. By the way, if you're new and you haven't, everybody in recovery does stupid shit clean. Everybody in recovery does stupid shit clean. If you think you haven't done anything stupid clean yet, you just haven't been clean long enough. Keep coming back. You're going to fuck up. I'm telling you. So I'm staring at the window. I go home. I'm a good addict. I go to meetings. Look at my window. I went nuts. I hit the window. I'm telling on my disease, man. I'm telling on myself. I go to a meeting and I share it. I go to another meeting and share it. I show people the busted window. I go to another meeting and I share it. I share it for about a month. One day my sponsor comes over and he goes, Jason, when are you going to quit sharing about that goddamn window and fix it? You follow me? That's a message of recovery right there. I was like a baby. I shit my pants and I was spreading it all over the place. We make mistakes, we clean up our mess, and we move on. We grow. That person that that I'm having a hard time with, need to love them. Clean up that mess right away. That resentment that I'm carrying on only hurts me. You know what I mean? Got to go through it. So that's it. We grow, man. We change. We grow. We got hope. And we got a program with principles that help us get through all this stuff. But get this. There's only one thing that'll defeat us more than anything else. And you know what that is, right, guys? It's an attitude. I don't even have to go through the rest of the sentence. You follow me? It's an attitude. I can cop an attitude. I heard someone share it earlier today. They said when they come up here and they got them down, he said, we're not responsible for our disease, we're responsible for our recovery. Listen, I am not responsible for that thought that goes through my mind. I've been clean for a while, and I got some crazy-ass thoughts that go through my mind. I'm responsible for the action behind the thought that goes through my mind. You follow me? So if you're in here today, and you're thinking about getting loaded, great. I'm glad that you're here. I'd rather see you in the meeting thinking about getting loaded than in a dope house thinking about getting clean. You right? If you're in here and you got babies in here and you're worried that you might be interrupting the meeting or something like that, I'd rather see the babies in the meeting than the babies in the dope house. Bring them. Not only will we love you, we'll love your kids. We'll help you show you how to raise those kids. That's what they've done for me. That's what you guys have done for me. We get a new way of life. We get a new way of life. And you know what? And if you're new, you can add anything you want, Narcotics Anonymous. Anything you want. I'll tell you a story. So I was about 30 years old. And I just came, before that I moved to Maryland. I moved from California to Maryland for about 1.5 years because, my life was a mess and it was California's fault because I was clean. California wasn't even as bad as it is today, but we'll let that go. And anyway, so I moved to Maryland and then I finally came back to California and I was 30 years old. I had about 3.5 years clean. And I went to one of them dances. You guys know the dances, right? And I'm at that dance, and I'm staring across the room. This is one of those dances where they go from the other fellowship too. They went from both fellowships. I really didn't care because I wasn't caring. I'm going there for recovery. Fuck that. Right? So I go to the dance and I look over there and I see this 23-year-old redhead looking all good. And I told Gary, he's my sponsor today. He wasn't then. Then he was just fucking crazy Gary because he was a loon. Now he's my sponsor. I told Gary, I said, man, I'm going to have to get to know that little redhead. He said, Jason, ain't nobody going to go out with you. You're fucked up. You don't even have a job. Right? I know NA. We did coffee after the meeting with the group. Right? We hung out for a while. She had about 6 months clean. Look, I talked to my sponsor about it. There's nothing in the literature that says you have to wait a year. Well, they put it in that new book they just wrote, but fuck that new book. It's true, man. You know, most of the people that say you shouldn't get clean, you shouldn't get in a relationship before you wait a year, got into a relationship before they had a year. Fuck that, man. Look, here's the thing. This is what my sponsor told me. You have feelings. She's going to have feelings. We're in recovery now. And you can hurt another person. That's why we have a 9th step and a 10th step. And you don't want to hurt nobody. So are your motives right? Right? Am I looking to just like do it and split, or like are my motives right? So we started going out. A couple of years later, we got married. My wife's going to be, she was 6 months clean when I met her. In September, she's going to be celebrating 30 years. She's got 29 years clean. That's what I'm talking about. I wish I had her with me, man. You know what, though? She knows me better than my sponsor. Well, she knows some things better than my sponsor. She's never seen me loaded. I've never seen her loaded. We got 3 kids and they've never seen us loaded. And that's a miracle of fucking life. When I was using, I was a bad guy. I was married before and I was never faithful. But since I've been clean, I've been able to be faithful to my wife. You know what I mean? I think we got a good relationship because we practice the traditions in our relationship. You know, the steps help me in order to get my shit together, but the traditions help me so I can get along with other people and play well with other people. And I'm just not talking about the group. I'm talking about other people. I'm talking about when we live by the spiritual principles, like we live by spiritual principles, like I'll go through the first 5 the way that I've worked them with my sponsor. The first tradition is selflessness. What's good for the group is good for the individual, right? That's selfless. My disease is selfish. By the way, this is not a selfish program. That's some more bullshit that came from treatment. This is a selfish disease. This is a selfish disease, and this program is all about giving, loving, caring, sharing, patience, tolerance, kindness, love. That's all selflessness. That's tradition 1. Tradition 2 is God-centeredness. That's putting God first and God in the center. You know, it says our leaders are servants. But it says we have one authority, God. That's what it says, God. 3 is not desire. Desire is not a spiritual principle. Desire is something that the person needs to have to get in. 3 is tolerance. That I need to love them to wherever they're coming from. You know, hug Stinky, right? Right? That guy who pissed me off at the business meeting, I need to love on. Fuck. I never do any of these spiritual principles perfectly. I don't know anybody that does. But that's why we practice them. We practice them to get better. It's like Tom Brady, you know, he didn't all of a sudden start throwing touchdowns. He still throws interceptions every now and then. But he's getting better. You know, motherfucker's getting really good. But you guys know what I'm saying. We practice. And then 4, this one's even harder for me. Autonomy. I didn't even know what the fucking word meant when I got here. I couldn't even pronounce that word when I got here. Autonomy means I allow a person to be their own individual and their own person. That's especially hard with my kids. I need to step aside and let them be what they're going to be and let them walk through their stuff, man. That's not easy to do because I'm wanting to jump on their side of the street. But when I get on their side of the street, you know what happens when 2 people ride on the same, bam, fuck. And 5, there's nothing more loving than carrying the message to addicts. A message of hope, promise of freedom. That's love, and that's all about the love. So that's what, if I say or anything tonight, man, I just hope you bring that home, man. We need to love each other in here. This is the love fellowship. you know. So, yeah, so I'm blessed, man. I'm really blessed. In order for me to get through those things, though, I still got to deal with myself because of my self-centeredness. Now, I don't know how much time they have. They're just supposed to give me a warning, but if not, remember, I went to that meeting where every long motherfucker in the world went to, because I'll keep you here all night long if they don't tell me to shut the fuck up. So, you got to give me this. Okay, Jason, but I kind of want to do this a little bit because I kind of want to talk a little bit about those principles, because that's how we live it. We live the principles, right? We live them, right? And working them's no good. Look, just working them, that's a half program, you know? I mean, so one is not powerlessness and unmanageability. It's honesty, it's surrender, and it's acceptance. Look, get this. Sharing this for you guys who are new. And you know what? It doesn't just work with dope. It works with all parts of our addiction. Like if you're gambling and shit like that, or if her is your addiction, or you know what I'm saying? Or the credit card is your addiction and we're spending money we don't got. You know, I've done that shit, you know. Like we ain't got no money, but let's go to Vegas. You know, so when we look at this, what I need to do is I need to realize is that dope owns me. I'm a slave to dope. You know what I mean? It owns me. And one of my sponsors were talking about, I said, Jason, does that mean you're dope's bitch? Well, now that you put it that way, I guess it does. See if you can relate to this. When I was loaded, I did shit that I didn't want to do. I was doing wrong and knew I was doing wrong and did it anyway. And the people that it hurt were the people that I cared about the most that were around me. Like, I didn't want to do that stuff. I felt bad about doing it. It just made me want to get high more. You know? It owns me. And I can't stop it. But together, I found out that we can get a higher power. That's faith. I can believe in something, a higher power that get us through it. And this is a program of relationships. So I'm going to give you guys, if you're new and you're struggling with that whole God thing, this guy told me this, and I love this. This was the prayer that he gave me. He said, Jason, say this. God, show yourself to me the way that you want me to see you. Period. He said, anything anybody's ever told you about God, he said, you throw that shit out. And you say, show yourself to me the way you want me to see you. And you know what I think he wanted me to do? I think he just wanted me to build that relationship. Because I can't have trust until I build a relationship. You know, so I have to build that relationship. And the name that we just use happens to be God. Because that's the book, that's what it uses in the book. So I have to build this relationship with this higher power that I don't understand. I'm like Mark. I don't understand God. I don't understand why this guy gets clean and this guy doesn't. I don't understand shit. I don't understand why the store was closed around the corner. You know what I mean? This shit happens all the time. I don't understand. I talked to my sponsor about it and I said, man, I just can't get it. I don't have an understanding of God. He goes, well, if you get an understanding of God, it must be a pretty small God to fit in that little pea brain of yours. See, I don't. I tried to. I remember early recovery, I thought, I've already, church didn't work for me. I tried it and this didn't work and that didn't work. I thought I need to get this big spiritual God. So I studied this religion, I studied that religion, I studied this religion, some Indian stuff, all this stuff. And I thought, man, I'm going to be really spiritual. I'm going to try to be the most spiritual person around here, right? So I was with my sponsor one day. I had about 9 months clean. I got a sponsor early because, I think I'm all that and all that other bullshit. You know how we are. First getting clean and thinking, you know what, maybe I'll start doing circuit speaker meetings. Anyway, so this bird flies. And we were up on those billboards because he for a living, he was changing the billboards on the side of the freeways. And this bird hits the side of the freeway and it slams to the freeway and it dies. And I look over to him and I said, damn, that must be my spirit advisor. That must be a spirit bird for me. That must be a message from God. So I walked over and I took the pliers and, the needle nose and cut the claw off that bird. And then someone told me that an amethyst was a recovery stone. So I super glued an amethyst in that claw. And then I got a leather strap because that's all natural and shit, and I tied the leather strap around that thing and carried that thing right around my neck. talking about how spiritual I am and shit. Some of us are sicker than others. So I'm walking around with this damn claw. I went to this meeting. It was the convention. I don't know, some of y'all might have been there. It was the convention in Baltimore, the World Convention in Baltimore. I remember going to the World Convention in Baltimore, and this guy said that when one addict thinks he's more spiritual than another, you know the way God looks at that? It's if, like, we look at a big old pile of ants, and one ant says, I'm the biggest ant. Like one of us is more special than anybody. There are no big eyes and little U's in narcotics. No, we're all the same and up here in clean time, and none of that shit matters. We love on each other. We don't know who's going to save our lives. Anyways, I wore that claw around my neck. I got this big old rash on my chest. I wore it till this dog ate it one day. I was thinking I was all that. Like I'm so fucking special. We're all the same in here. We need to share that stuff. And you know those deep, dark, sick secrets, you know, those ones, you know, like in the inventory, we got the resentments, that's dealing with the past, we talked about last night. That's what the 4-step is, if you read it in the original 4-step guide. Resentments, and then you got the anger for, you know, the present, and then you got the fear for the future, and then you got the sex shit. You know, that real kinky sex shit, you know what I mean? The stuff that I don't want to tell nobody. You know what? After I really got to be able to trust people and start sharing some stuff with my sponsees and some of my sponsors, fuck, square pegs do fit in round holes. Man, we're in a room with a whole bunch of sick fucks. Man, I'm in the right spot. We're not alone. You know what I mean? We belong. Ever have that feeling where you never belong? You know, I don't belong in this place, or I don't belong in that place, I don't belong here. You know what? You're at home. Welcome to Narcotics Anonymous. And it's true, square pegs fit in round holes. But we got to share with each other. We got to let each other know what's really going on. We got to, you know, and I'm not talking about sharing about the game and all that stuff. I'm talking about the real stuff. The pain. The hurt. Is it getting close? Oh, good, 15. Okay, well, let's skip through these steps fast then. Let's just jump a little bit. See, I told you if you didn't stop me, I was going to go for a long fucking time. So get this. So 2 is faith. Then 3 we get to trust. And then 4 is we got to get the courage, you know, the courage to talk to people. And 5 is when we talk to people and we get, you know, be open with another person and get and open what do they have to say. You got to be open-minded what they have to say and stuff like that. But listen, all of the steps up to 11 are all about self. I'll get that in a second because I should get there first. 6 is when I talk about my defects. My defects are those things that are wrong with me. Like, get this. I broke my finger's shorter than the other. That's a physical defect. I got mental defects. I got emotional defects and scars from when I was younger. And I got character defects and how I act out. So 7 is how I act out on those defects. That's my shortcomings. So 6 I got to be willing to give them to God. But 7 I got to be honest about what's really going on and be humble. Like, this is really what I'm all about. And you know how when they say call your sponsor before you get loaded? I also need to call my sponsor before I act out on my character defects. Follow me? It's better to call him and say, hey, Gary, you know, crazy Gary. It's better to call Gary and say, hey, Gary, I'm thinking about doing this, or this is what's been going through my head, than to call Gary and say, oh, fuck, Gary, guess what I just did? Right? Walk through it. We'll do it together. 8, you know, we make a list of the people we'd harm, and then 9 is we come willing to make the amends, right? So 8 starts the process of forgiveness. That's what it says in the literature. I thought 9 was forgiveness, but actually 8's forgiveness. 9's freedom. I want to share freedom with you for a second. That's why I wanted to jump to this, because freedom's so fucking cool. So when I was 15 years old, I had the best job in around. I'm an old man. I'm 60 years old. Shit, I've been clean longer than some of you guys have been alive. I could be your dad. Anyway, I worked at the Baskin Robbins at the Fashion Fair Mall. Yeah. Great job for a high school kid. Everybody hung out there back then. There was no MTV and shit like that. Everybody went to the fucking mall. And I was the ice cream man. You know? Like that Van Halen song. Yeah. Good people I worked for. Really good people I worked for. But if she was looking sweet, she might have got an extra scoop. You follow me? If I needed a buck or two to score a joint, I might have been in the register. Not might have, I was. I was ripping them off is what was happening. Now for years I carried that. They were good people, they never knew what happened. But once I got clean, it became time where, you know what? I had to pay it back. Now get this. Well, they never knew what happened. Maybe it would hurt them if I told them and hurt their feelings. So fuck with that bullshit that it might hurt another. It's not going to hurt them to give them money and tell them that you're a fuck up. You pay them back. Not this bullshit it might hurt their feelings. No, it hurt their wallet is what the fuck it did. So you get honest, you pay it back, I clean up the mess, but here's the miracle. I can go to the Baskin Robbins today and get ice cream with my kids. I can walk past that store without feeling the shame and guilt that I've been carrying all my life. You know what I mean? I went through I remember, and when I do these things, I need to stay on my side of the street. Remember when I talked about staying on my side? So I remember when my first sponsor, I didn't think my first sponsor was going to know anything how to help me either, because I asked him to be my sponsor because I needed a sponsor to get out of treatment. Then he told me he was gay, and I thought, man, how are you going to deal with my shit? But he knew exactly how to deal with it, because I'll tell you what happened when I went to go make my amends. I went to make my amends, and I knocked on my ex-wife's door, and I said, I'm here to make my amends. Now listen, whenever I was with her, I was not faithful. I was a bad dude. You know how it is. We don't come home at night and shit like that. We get loaded, and shit happens. But I knocked on her door, and I said, I'm here to make the amends. She goes, oh yeah, I can tell you're in the, I know you're doing that NA thing right now. She goes, but can you come back in an hour? I thought, I'll come back in an hour. And I looked up, and she was having dinner with that 17-year-old she was fucking when we were married. So I went back to my sponsor who I didn't think knew anything about me. And I said, what am I going to do? You know what he told me? He goes, you're going to go back in an hour. He said, when you go back there, you're going to say all the stuff that you've done, and you're going to clean up your mess. He said, this is what you do. You need to clean up your mess, because her stuff's her stuff. You're not going to mention that guy. You're not going to mention anything that she did. You're not going to say, I did this because you did that. You're going to clean up your own mess, because when you get up in the morning tomorrow morning and you go to brush your teeth, the eyes in the mirror that meet the eyes in the head are yours, and you got to be comfortable in your own skin, and you got to get the freedom. Yeah. That man knew exactly what I needed to hear. I made another amends. And this one was a real hard one for me. When I was 11 years old, I'm the oldest of 4 boys. When I was 11 years old, my dad OD'd in the backyard. He went to Narcotics. He didn't go to Narcotics Anonymous. He went to the other fellowship. And he couldn't get clean through there. He OD'd. And I had a lot of anger and a lot of fear and a lot of stuff going on behind that. I carried a lot of baggage behind that. But I remember when I went to the East Coast and I went by the graveyard, and they talk about we burned the letters and did all those things. But one day I went by the graveyard, and it was raining. It was pouring down rain. And I knelt by the graveyard and I looked at his date. He was 35 years old when he died. And then I started crying because I had an NA schedule in my back wallet. And I looked at that schedule and I thought, it stops here. I didn't look at him as father no more, because as long as I had that label of father on him, then I expected him to act like I thought a dad should act. But when I looked at him as another addict in recovery, I could feel his pain, even though he'd been gone.
I mean, dude, if I'm loaded like that and I got those kids, I'm thinking, dude, I'm no good in these kids' lives, man. I'm a fucking mess. He didn't have the program that we have. He didn't have the hope that he had. He didn't have the freedom we have. I buried that schedule with him, man, and the freedom was intense. He died at 35. I'm 60. Yeah, you can't get clean time and not get fucking old up in here. And my kids have never seen me loaded. I got one goal, man. That goal is to die clean. That's it. It's not the number of days. It's just I want that infinity medallion. There's no race to win, man. I just, I want to go that way. I want to go that way. I want to be that way. Okay. So that's 9, 10. That's all about me, by the way. 8th, I'm making a list of all the people I fucked over. 9th, I'm making my amends and cleaning up my messes and getting my freedom. 10's about every day going through my shit. But 11 is, by the way, every single one of those steps start with we. 11 is, we sought through prayer and meditation to prove that's your will, not mine, be done. I got to clean up all that fucking muck in the first 10 steps to get to 11, just to realize, guess what? It ain't about me. I'm so self-centered, I thought the world revolved around me. It's not about me, man. If someone gets up when I'm sharing, maybe they had to piss. If someone looks at me weird, maybe they're just funny looking that way, that's all. It's not all about me, man. I get to 11, I realize it's about God. Because when we get to 12, it says, having had. That means it already happened. Having had, we get the spiritual awakening. Guess what? It's not about me, and it ain't about you. It's about us. It's about together we stay clean. It's about together we can get this. It's about loving each other. So I'm going to tell you a quick little story, and I'm going to wrap it up. Another quick little story. So I like to go to the prisons. So one day I went to the prison over in Chowchilla Valley State Prison. And I'm in the meeting, and there's probably about 40 guys in the meeting. And this is a meeting that we started in the prison, by the way. So I go to the meeting, and as I'm in the meeting, this guy who's a lifer, 25 years in the pen, he says, "Damn, Jason, I like that shirt." I had a black shirt. It said clean real big on the back, and it said Jason with my clean date on the front, right there, He goes, "I like that shirt." I said, "Darren, you ever get out of here, Daryl? You know what? You get some clean time, and I'll buy you a shirt like this." He said, "I got a number." I said, "Damn." I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, I can't give numbers because, you go to jail, you can't give your home number or anything like that." I said, "Look me up on Facebook, Jason GEE. That's where the GEE comes from. That's my Facebook identity, because I don't miss, anyway, that's anonymity, whatever. Anyway, so he looked me up. 6 months later, he looked me up. He's living in Los Angeles. I said, "Where are you living at?" He said, "Well," he said he's living off of Crenshaw Boulevard. I don't know if you guys know where Crenshaw Boulevard is, but that's the hood, brother. And you know what he asked me, right? Come on, guys. What did he ask me? "Where's your shirt? Where's my shirt?" Right? Well, it just so happened that he called me in in June. In July was my daughter's birthday. And the first weekend of July, my daughter, for her birthday, she wanted to go down to those fancy shops in Los Angeles and get some of that crazy stuff. So we go to Los Angeles, and I call him up, and I say, "Hey, let's go to a meeting." He goes, "Okay, let's go." So we go to a meeting that morning. My wife and my daughter's getting ready to go shop, and they're in the hotel room. I leave out work early to go to the 8 o'clock meeting in Los Angeles. I pick up Daryl. I bring his shirt. I got his basic text. We're driving over to the meeting, and he gets real nervous. "I don't know if I can do this." "What do you mean you can't do this?" I said, "I don't know if I can do this because, you know what? This is where I did my life crime, and I killed that guy. Right in that same neighborhood. So this is going to be okay. We're in the rules of Narcotics Anonymous. We're going to do this together." We went to that meeting. I shared. He shared. You should have seen the tears in his eyes when he got his first key tag. He had like 7 years clean. He picked up his first key tag there, one of those black ones. You know what I'm saying? He kept looking at this other guy on the other side of the room and saying, "I know that guy from somewhere. I know that guy from somewhere." And see, I'm not telling my story. I'm telling their story. He looked over, and then afterwards, he talked to him after the meeting, and they did time in Soledad together, and it was another lifer. And there they are on Central Boulevard, in the hood at Central Boulevard. It gets better though, because you know what? They asked me to come back about a month later to share there. So I got to go back to share about 2 months later. And I called Daryl and I said, Daryl, man, I'm going to share back at that clubhouse. I go, you still going to meetings over there? He goes, no, am I going to meetings? He goes, I'm the GSR. I said, well, I'm going to share this day. And he goes, man, I got to work. I can't be there. I wish I could be there. I can't be there. 2 minutes, I'm going to do it in one. I can't be there. I'm going to work. I said, okay. I said, that's fine. But when I went there, guess what? He traded with somebody and he was there. Daryl was in the front row. He was wearing a black NA t-shirt. It wasn't the NA t-shirt that I got him. It was one that he made himself. It was black, and it had the NA symbol, like this. Huge, with big NA letters across it and rhinestones. You could see it from a mile away. Dreadlocks, the gold teeth shining, the rhinestones. He was rocking it. He just got buried about 6 months ago. Recovery happens. We clean up real nice in here. We even get teeth. Okay, guys, I know I got to wrap it up, but this is the one thing that I had planned for you guys, because we started with a prayer, and then we did a reading. So I figured I'd end it with a reading, then we're going to do the prayer. So I got a reading for you guys that I stole. By the way, all wisdom is plagiarized. Only ignorance is original. I heard a speaker share that and thought, man, that's some pretty fucking heavy shit. Later on, I looked it up on the internet. He didn't make that shit up. He stole that. You knew they said wrote that? Anonymous. So here we go, guys. Who is a recovering addict? Most of us don't have to think twice about this question. We know. Our whole life and thinking is centered in NA in one way or another. The getting and searching and finding ways and means to give more. We live to love and love to live. Very simply, a recovering addict is a man or woman whose life is controlled by a loving God. We are people living the reality of a continuing and progressive recovery whose ends are always the same. Happy, joyous, and free. Thanks for letting me share.